Thank you for joining us today. This is Worth the Admission podcast. My name is B. Frank.
And I'm Travis.
And today we're talking about Game of Thrones Episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
This is a really good episode. To me, people who complain about the slower and the not as action-packed, think about the older seasons where it really was a grind and there was so much information. Even these slower episodes have so much more of a flow than what you got in Season 2, even Season 1, even Season 3. It was just slow for a while, and I think even these slow episodes now don't feel that slow.
We know that they're all important. Episode 2 was more of a great collection of moments between characters than moments of the show, because we got a lot of mingling back and forth. We saw Arya and Gendry and their scene. We saw Tyrion and Jaime talk about their father. There were a lot of good line deliveries and just a lot of good moments between characters that we never even thought would interact.
My favorite part of this episode, and I guess it's not even anything that happened, it's the feel that the writers give off and as well as the characters give off. This is what makes it such a good show. You feel the pressure as the story goes along. As we get further in the episode, you can tell it starts weighing on people. It starts as a joke, haha, we're going to die here. And halfway through the episode, it almost snaps with all the characters. It flips and goes, no, this is where we're probably going to die here. And you can just feel the dismal. It's almost like, when you don't want to go do something and you're waiting as long as possible to do it, or, it's just something bad, the inevitable is going to happen. And
it's the calm before the storm.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about this episode is you got, like you said, you got all of these different matches, and it was really interesting to see. We got to have an interaction with Jaime and Bran, and I thought that was a lot better. I was excited to see that.
His court scene, his quick court, hearing was intense, because that's kind of how it started off. And Daenerys, I'm kind of scared of Daenerys right now, because throughout this episode, a lot of people are saying that she would make a good queen. She'd be a good ruler. She's not like her father. But over the last 2 episodes, we've seen a part of her that we really haven't seen before. And so I think that she's either going to go mad or something's going to happen, because I don't think that she's going to be better at this point. It's being said too much to not be a trigger for something.
See, while everybody else speculates, I'm just enjoying the ride, because I can't even begin to theorize anything. Because, like I said, you are the master in this. That's why I go to you on everything. I haven't had the rewatchability as much as you have, so I don't know as many of the characters. But for me, I'm enjoying this because I know this isn't going to end the way we think it's going to. And every player's still in the game. Even through 2 episodes. And I know the next episode coming up is going to be, I believe they said this is the longest one coming up here. Is this episode 3. I think it's in just under an hour and a half. I think it's an hour and 28 minutes. I think is what I read.
I'm happy about that. I think it has to, especially with how, this is the big battle. This is the battle that everybody's talking about. This is the battle that everybody's been waiting for. And so they can't skimp out. So I'm expecting an hour and a half of fighting, and maybe bouncing between storylines. I'm also a little scared that we haven't seen the Night King yet, because he's on his dragon. So I think that there's a chance that while his walkers are tearing down Winterfell, he could go to King's Landing and then start from the south. It's it seems odd that the Night King hasn't showed himself yet, and so I think, or that we haven't seen the Night King yet. So I think that he's off doing his own thing, and I think we're kind of going to be surprised about it.
I think you're right, because that's not the first theory I've heard about why haven't we seen him yet. And you're not the only one who thinks that he might be going to King's Landing. See, I can't theorize. I'm enjoying it so much, but something's going to happen. And obviously it's going to, but I don't think with these shows, even with True Detective and all the other the speculating we did, we were kind of on, but we were mostly off. And with this, it's so hard to tell you where it's going to go. I just enjoy it, because this episode, the ending was my favorite part, just because I enjoyed how everybody progressed through this. I don't know where you want to start. I mean, we can pick this apart. What stood out to you in this? What was, because there was about 3 or 4 memorable moments that I think really made the episode. I want to hear what stood out to you.
Well, other than obviously the 2 big kind of final scenes, I really liked Bran and Jaime. Like, Jaime kind of went around to a couple different people. Bran pretty much told him that if he hadn't pushed him out of the window, then he wouldn't be who he is today. And so it was cool to know that. And Bran, obviously, he's like, I don't want them to kill you before we need you. How can we use you if you're dead? In that conversation, I also think Bran has an idea of what's going to happen afterwards, because when he's talking to Jaime and Jaime's like, well, what about afterwards? Bran goes, how do you know that there's an afterwards? And watching this episode again kind of made me think that all of these characters are going to be dead this weekend. I don't know, there's just something is off, and so I'm just waiting for that other shoe to drop. Because right now it seems like just a very straightforward, you fight us, we fight you, and I think the Night Game is playing his own Game of Thrones.
Well, I definitely think you're right. We are going to lose characters next week. It all just depends on how many we're going to lose. It's hard. I don't want to spoil to get to the end of the episode because there's other things I want to say. I mean, Jon Snow and Daenerys' final scene, knowing what she knows, it's so easy just to kill him right there, the heir to the Iron Throne. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do at that point? Because there's just these little tiny things that obviously we're seeing her change as a character. She is becoming a lot more cold-hearted and shut off. You can tell when she, even from just that last episode, just think about the last week when they ride in that very first scene and how welcoming she is to this point in time. She has become closed off and reserved already. And we're only at the end of episode 2. We still have 4 episodes to go. So to me, like at the end of the episode, that's one of the things where I think he'll have a dragon. I think he, is a Targaryen, and I believe that he's, he actually is the heir to the Iron Throne, so I think he won't be affected. But it's one of those, what if he wasn't, and what if that was a lie? You know what I mean? There's so many ways that we can be twisted back and forth.
And the scene between Dany and Sansa was... Ooh. Watching it the first time, I was like, okay, they're bonding, and then they're not. It seemed, watching it the second time, that Daenerys was trying to manipulate Sansa, and Sansa called her out on it. Because they were all kind of buddy-buddy, and then she's like, what about the North? We said that we would never bow to anybody who wasn't from the North, and then Dany removes her hand and kind of gets cold, so... I think she was trying to manipulate her because she said, I love your brother and I'm here for him. But her face changed so drastically when it didn't work on Sansa.
I feel like Sansa's going to have a big interference to Dany and what she's going to do in some point in the season. Whether she dies for her brother, if she dies for Jon Snow, or she doesn't. I think that it could come down to something like that. Obviously... she's watching like a hawk in every scene. You just feel that hatred for one another. That animosity that can't be spoken. Especially with them being as royal as they are. You don't get a lot of outbursts in this show. So it's a lot of passive aggressiveness, more than anything else. But you can definitely feel between those two. And I'm interested to see where that goes. But I don't know how much we're going to see next week with the battle.
I don't think we're ready for the battle. I really don't. It's going to be so much crazier than I think it's going to be. Because especially alone just with the White Walkers that we saw line at the end, and the board inside like the council hearing, all the white pieces, and they know that if they make it out of this alive, whoever makes it out of this alive, if they win, it's by luck when it comes down to it. I mean, the biggest battle of movie and television history, so it's kind of have to live up to that. But I think we are going to lose a lot of people. There were too many good, pure moments tonight. Like Sam giving up his family sword to Jorah.
Oh.
I think Jorah might die.
Did that tear on your heartstrings just a little bit?
A little bit. Especially when Jorah said, I will fight in his honor. Mm-hmm. Like, I will wield this in his name.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really cool.
Yeah, it was such a heartwarming moment, just him telling him the story, you can just tell how much it meant. And knowing him, he's still gonna fight, and obviously, I believe they're both going to die. We both know that. It's just a matter of when. But I thought that moment before, and I feel like a lot of the moments that we got, you're gonna remember those, because those are gonna be the last things that you see as they perish. Because people are dying next week, and we know this, and I'm just so excited for this battle. And I think they lulled us into this with two very, very nice... I mean, they weren't slow-paced episodes. You know, they flowed well. They connected. The story was really good. And now they're going to just drop the hammer on us, and we're going to literally go from 25 miles an hour to 120. I think you're not going to have time to react, because as we saw at the end of that, everybody was on the move. It was the pace had just picked up at the end of
it. Was all hands on deck.
Yep. It was go time.
Even Jon and Daenerys, they after their the quick, like, hey,
the look they gave each other, that look that they gave each other, when he's standing up.
Like, all right, it's time.
Yeah, it's
this is now bigger than us.
And I thought the concern too. It was confidence, and let's get, it's time to go. And I felt, with Jaime and all of them hanging out in Tyrion, they all hanging out, drinking and having a good time. That was probably my favorite part of the episode, is going back and forth between them. And I'll have you set up the part that happens at the end, because I did think that was another thing that really tugged at my heartstrings. I thought was important. You can just tell with everybody, they were waiting for the horn. It was, no one wanted to go to sleep, because they knew the moment they got to sleep is when it's go time.
Yeah, they're sharp now.
Yeah.
So why change that?
So yeah,
and
it's
that whole, I don't know, I'd say 20 minutes of the episode takes place bouncing between there and back. And it starts with Jaime and Tyrion, which is a great interaction between them, because Tyrion says, "I wish Father was here." And Jaime gives him this look of like, "What did you just say?" And Tyrion goes, "To see both of his sons die at Winterfell, I'd love to see his face." Something like that. It was so good. And then you see Podrick and Brienne come in, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry to bother you." And Tyrion, of course, like, "Nope, you came here to contemplate your imminent death." And we start to see people flow in, and people that we never really thought
outcasts
would interact before, like Jaime and Tormund. Whoever thought that they'd be sitting in a room together? It's cool, because when you look deeper into it, most of that is Jon Snow. Like, he's the one who brought all of these people together in one way or another.
They have that conversation.
And it's such a good scene. And then Tormund, who's like, "Wait, you're not a knight?" Talking to Brienne. And she goes, "No, it's tradition." He's like, "Fuck tradition."
Yep.
And it's beautiful, because he's like, "If I were king, I'd knight you 10 times over." And then Jaime, out of nowhere, says, "You don't have to be a king to knight somebody." And we get this really pure, good moment, I think, before, Brienne dies, where he knights her. And it's really good, because look on her face, that's all she's wanted, but it's tradition not to. And so when he says, "Fuck tradition," they're like, "Well, then let's do it."
Yeah, that was such a nice and sweet moment. And he even talks about it. He wants to pay her back. And I mean, like, he feels like she gave him so much. And even though he took care of her, what that did for his character, you can tell at that moment in time, basically saving his ass in front of the court in the morning. It was such a nice moment to be able to say, "Hey, this is what I really truly think of you. Not just being an asshole, not being mean. This is just true-hearted. I believe that you should deserve to die as a knight." And I thought that was really awesome. And it was weird to see such heartwarming moments twice in a Game of Thrones episode, because that's usually not what we're used to getting.
Right after, toward the beginning of the episode, Jaime is talking to Brienne, and after a funny exchange of, "You're not calling me names. Do you want me to?" No. Jaime is just kind of flat out. He's like, "I'm not the fighter I used to be, but I want to fight under your command if you'll have me." And Brienne has this moment of I think, wow, he truly respects me. Like, This is the most respect I've seen him give anybody, and the previous time he gave me respect was the most time I'd seen. He respects her so much, I don't think he respects anybody else the same, which is really awesome.
in those times, especially with that, someone to follow you into battle to basically say, "Hey, I'm going to die beside you," is it's my honor. You know, it's one of those. That's such a big respect thing. You know, just other than knighting her, which was just on another level. This really showed, like you said, this really showed how much he cared about her, and it was so nice. It's just so weird because we have all this lovingness, and well, we didn't have a whole lot of sex, but we did have one interesting scene that
Interesting indeed.
I think you should talk about.
Ever since the beginning of the series, Arya has pretty much been laser focused on killing the people on her list, you know, being some type of fighter. And in this episode, we saw her kind of come back to her humanity. She pretty much tells Gendry that she wants to have sex before she dies. And I think a lot of the reason that it was weird is because we've seen her grow up, and it's not something that we've never thought of her as, I guess, a character who has sex. I don't know. It's not something that's ever crossed our mind, and so to see that was kind of weird. But her and Gendry have sex, and that's that, I guess.
I mean, it was just, I thought it was funny because I saw a bunch of people freak out about, like what you said. I never thought of her as that, so it was a little awkward to watch.
Arya is 18, according to, I think, the writers. Like, no, she is 18.
She looks like a little kid, though, so it just feels even weirder, because, yeah.
And there were three quick parts, and that was Theon. Now,
yes.
Say what you will about Theon, you know, whether he deserved what he got or didn't. He comes around full circle really well. He comes in and pretty much tells Sansa that he wants to fight for Winterfell. And then he says that he'll protect Bran, as Bran says that he's going to stay in basically the courtyard waiting for the Night King because that's all he wants. And then there's a scene with, just a quick scene while Podrick is singing his very beautiful song.
Yes.
Where Sansa and Theon are just looking at each other. And it's a feeling of respect for one another because they know what the other's been through, but also they've saved them both. They've saved each other in doing all of the things that they've done. So it was really cool to see them together. I think Theon is going to die for Bran.
I think you're right.
And it's just kind of full circle. Which, that whole council scene was cool. Because we got, I think, one of my favorite lines so far from Jon, which is, "Our enemy doesn't tire, they don't stop." And it's just, the line delivery on that was really good. And it does put it into perspective of how big this is.
How
big of a deal this is.
But I felt the importance of these first two episodes. I mean, putting them back, you know, watching them so far, the first one you felt like it was a nice warm welcome for the first few minutes, and then it was time to get to work. And now episode 2 felt more like waiting for the inevitable. You know what's coming. There's no way around it. You know they're coming through. You know they're almost at your front doorstep, which, I mean, at the end of that scene is just terrifying how close the war really is when you look at it. When you see Tyrion looking out and it pans all the way out of the castle and you just see the White Walkers, you know, the army of the undead just right there, and you're like, oh, they're that close.
This is happening now. Like,
yeah.
it's here, and I need to be ready now.
Yeah, we're talking 20 minutes, if that. You know, that's all you have left to get ready, and whatever you do in those 20 minutes is what's going to have to basically keep you alive.
Fight for your life.
Yeah.
To fight for your life and everybody else's lives. Like, that's, you also can't think of it as I am, which I think they did a good job, especially in this episode, of showing that this isn't just Jaime is going to fight for Jaime. Jaime is going to fight for the living. And if Jaime has to die to get the living to live on, then so be it. And everybody's in that. Everybody is in that mindset of, I'm not fighting this for me, I'm fighting this for us.
Yeah, and I really like that. That's what good writing and good storytelling does. They've built this into such a massive battle. And even though I don't think we're ready, I believe the characters are. And I think that's what's going to make this okay. Because even though we're not ready for the death and for the show to be over and to have this run, but I believe the characters are. And mentally, that's what you're getting for this. It was nervousness into I'm going to die to acceptance. And you could tell by the end of this, everybody had accepted their fate. This is what they were here to do. This is what they were meant to do. This is what's going to happen. And they've done that so well where I don't feel like there's any one character that feels unjust or doesn't feel that's right for that or doesn't feel ready. Even like, someone like a Tyrion, who's not a warrior by any stretch of the imagination, is prepared to die and is knowing he's going to die. I like that. Even with Bran, he can't fight, and he knows he knows more than he's leading on. He knows what's going to happen, but it's nice to know there's that calmness to it, to know that it's going to be okay. You don't get that from a show. They always leave you either heartbroken at the very end or wanting more. This is basically laying you into bed, for the final time. It's like that, and it's that's what's going to make these next 4 episodes probably very hard to watch. Not only from who dies, but I think as heartbreaking it is for us as listeners, I think they're going to do it in such a way where it feels just.
I think the biggest quick scene of the episode is at the very end, when now the whole episode, Jon had been basically keeping himself away from Daenerys. When she called him the Warden of the North, I was pretty taken aback, but he walked out right after that court hearing, and she finally went down into the crypts as he was looking at a statue, and she asks him, she's like, "Who is that?" And he goes, "Lyanna Stark." I was surprised that he didn't say, "Lyanna Stark, my mother," but in all reality, he did a much better job leading into it, and it made the scene so much better as the scene itself. He says it's Lyanna Stark, and then Daenerys says that she was surprised that Rhaegar kidnapped her and raped her. And then we get the moment of this is happening from Jon. He goes, he loved her. He married her in secret. She had a son, and on her deathbed, she gave it to her brother, Ned Stark, to raise as his bastard. And he goes, my real name is Aegon Targaryen. And she has this moment of, no, this can't be. And he goes, I know that it's right. I feel it. And he goes, Bran said it, and Sam confirmed it. And she has this look of, oh, then you would have a claim to the Iron Throne. And then at that moment, we get the horns to call to the battlements. So there is no time to discuss it, but if it's something that can be discussed afterward, it will be. But that's also, like,
if
we don't know what's going to come out of that because we haven't had a chance to see anybody's true reaction. So whoever makes it out of this, I think at least Jon and Daenerys, hopefully, make it out of this so that we can just see how that plays out. But again, everybody at Winterfell could die, and the Night King wins.
Well, that would be a really boring last 3 episodes just to have him walk around and be like, I win. Or he would just stand there on top of a mountain and just look out, and that's what it would be. It would just be a time lapse of that for 80 minutes.
Like I say, the fact that this big battle, is in episode 3 of 6 means that the following 3 episodes are going to be crazy within themselves. And of course, this is Game of Thrones, so it's going to live up to the hype that it's created.
Is that it? Is that all you got?
I think that's the whole episode.
I can deal with that.
Give or take a couple random moments.
No, I can take that though. Well, we needed random. I mean, that's all we've been focusing on is Marvel and Game of Thrones. So it's...
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so, prediction here. What's it going to do opening weekend? Because this is technically the Wednesday before it opens. So we know 107 million in China. So we're going to take worldwide out. I just want to hear domestic.
I think domestic hits 350. And that will encompass Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because Infinity War did 650, 670 just domestic last year. And so I think it crosses 350 domestic in its first weekend.
I say it hits 3. But I want to say it's going to die somewhere between 290 and 300. I would love to see 315. Everybody's going to go see it. I mean, the theaters are packed. That's why I bought my ticket. I mean, that's why you bought your tickets. I know you're going twice. You're going Thursday and Friday.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, before we go, because I do want to promote this a little bit, your boy, B. Frank here, traveling down to come see me, and also do other things as well, too, in this town. So we are going to hold off on the Avengers Endgame review, because him and I are actually going to go we're actually going to do a podcast in person versus via over Skype. So we want the audio
for
quality.
For the first time.
Yep, for the first time. But we just want everything to sound a little bit better versus being on Skype and for us and trying to record microphone, the whole process. So it's going to be nice to be able to hear and react with you. Actually, I think we're going to go see it too, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to go see it and then talk about it. And that itself, that whole weekend is going to be a crazy weekend because that's also the series finale of Game of Thrones. So we'll have a chance to record the Avengers Endgame and Game of Thrones finale both in person.
We have to make it happen. You said it to the listeners.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I'm excited.
Oh, I'm very excited. So that's less than a month now, I think. That is what? May 17th? I think that we're going to try and... I think you're down that weekend?
19th.
19th.
May 19th is the Sunday of Game of Thrones, and that week surrounding it is when I'll be there. So at some point, you'll get both of those episodes.
It's going to be a fun weekend. We'll try and share our thoughts, non-spoilerish. We'll throw them up on Twitter. So follow us on Twitter and on Facebook at WTAE Podcast, just so you can get all our thoughts. And I think that's just about it, though. I think we're ready to wrap this up.
You heard it here first. As always, I am B. Frank.
And I'm Travis.
And we are worth the admission. Avenge the Fallen.